The NFL Scouting Combine is underway. Players are getting measured up. They are hitting the field, working out. Who amongst the defensive linemen could the 49ers be looking at in the NFL draft? Coming up on today's Locked On 49ers.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker with you at BD Peacock at Eric_Crocker. Thanks everybody for making us your first listen on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every stinking day. We got Lee in the chat that says live. Yeah, live. It's live. It's for real live. It's not the premiere on today's episode of Locked On 49ers. Hello to Kevin in the chat. Thanks everybody for jumping in with us. We've got some underwear Olympics happening right now in the NFL, and after a week of people being at the combine, they're finally doing something, Croc. So this is fun. This is fun. We actually get to see people on the field. We get to see guys getting measured up. I want to talk as well, Croc, today about a report earlier in the week that came out from the NFLPA, and they polled players anonymously about different organizations and what they liked about different organizations, and players graded organizations on facilities and training staffs and all kinds of stuff from, basically A grade to F grade. And I'm actually surprised that they allowed the F grades to go out there. I thought it would have been one of those things where it's like A to C minus kind of a thing. We see that with draft prospects all the time. And like there's different teams that have different scouting scales, but one that's very popular is similar to the one that is used on NFL.com by Lance Zierlein. And I always thought it was super weird because there's like the best prospect in the entire draft gets a 7.0 or a 7.1. And then like a dude who's undraftable is like a 5.9. The entire scale is between, basically in the sixes from 6.0 to 6.9. It's super strange. So it's like, you've got all these digits. Like, how about a 10 and a 1? It gives you a little bit more space to grade prospects. But and so that's the way a lot of people do it. And when we see this with draft grades, post draft too, Croc, there's like Mel Kiper come out with draft grades. The best team gets an A+ and the worst team gets a C. And so I thought that's the way the NFL might do it, but no, they came out and they actually gave some Fs. They gave quite a few Fs. Teams like the Washington Commanders did not come out of those grades well at all. The Arizona Cardinals were actually really bad here in the NFC West, but the 49ers, they looked pretty good with their grades, and they ended up being the 7th overall, taking everything into consideration out of 32 teams. So not bad there for the 49ers. I was worried they were going to, there was like, the strength or the training staff or the medical staff was going to get dinged, but the training room is what actually got dinged. The worst grade the 49ers had was a C+ for their training room.
And what specifically about their training? Like, does it say, or like, did the anonymous person say, hey, this is what I don't like about the training room?
I didn't see any anecdotes about why the training room for the 49ers was a C+ versus others. But with all the injuries for the 49ers, I don't know, maybe I don't think it has something to do with that. The training staff gets an A-. So maybe it's just a smaller room or something like that. There were some really interesting ones, like the Seahawks. Pete Carroll doesn't allow his team to fly home first class if they lose. If they win, the team gets first class. If they lose, the team's not in first class. So I don't know how that works with the plane. Is it like the coaching staff is, if they lose, the coaching and training staff is up front, and then the players are in the back where there's not first class? I wonder how that works. Or is everybody just sit in the back? Is there two different planes? They're like, which plane are we going to take home? The first class plane or the not first class plane?
See, I fly Southwest where everything is first class. So,
well, there you go. You're fancy, Croc. You got that thing.
There's no. My brother calls Southwest the bus in the sky because there's
no first class.
Yeah, but there's no first class. So it's just, the whole thing is first class. I like to look at it that way.
It's Crocky class.
So as far as the 49ers and their training, I've only been into a couple, 3 different NFL training rooms, and maybe there's some that have like some super state of the art that I haven't been there, right? Let's say Minnesota Vikings, where now they're just
Croc's breaking up. Croc froze on us. He's going to drop some training room knowledge. The Seahawks spirit leaving says. Sorry, you were breaking up there, Croc.
Hold on, I'm going to change my my Wi-Fi. Okay, you just go ahead.
Jump out and jump back in. I'll talk about some other grades here for the 49ers from according to the players. And luckily for the 49ers, they didn't get crushed like some other teams did. So treatment of families, 49ers got a B+, which was actually the second lowest grade they got from anything. Everything was A's except for treatment of families was B+. Training room was C+. Locker room was B+. I think it probably has to do with space with a lot of this, especially with locker room and training room. Food service, A-. The weight room was an A- for the 49ers. Strength coaches, an A. Training staff, A-. And team travel was an A-. So all around, nothing amazing from the 49ers. Nothing really terrible at all from the 49ers organization. So they look pretty good by comparison when you're talking about free agents and why they would want to come to the 49ers, and everything with the organization seems to be in a really good class, 7th among 32 NFL. All right, Croc, you were about to drop some knowledge on us on NFL training rooms and how that might be different. The second lowest grade the 49ers got was their locker room, too. So I have a feeling it has to do with space.
It could have something to do with space. And now there are differences in locker rooms. I've been to Philadelphia Eagles locker room, and it looks like a high school locker room, kind of. Jets, wow. Their facilities just in general were really nice in comparison to what I've seen from like the New Orleans Saints. Like the Jets, the locker room, the showers, even the, like where you eat, the cafeteria, they had like I've been to the 49ers cafeteria when doing like media stuff, and there is no comparison when it comes to just the cafeterias. Like the Jets, it was just far better in the sense of just the options. They have like these 5-star chefs on the other side. You have so many different options, buffet style, or they make everything right there for you. And maybe the 49ers do some of those things, but I just remember walking in, wasn't as nice. Like I just was like, Jets is way better than this. Jets locker room was really nice. And you see some like the Dallas Cowboys, like their locker room. It's just there are differences in locker rooms. I think the 49ers, it's a little bit more. I've seen theirs as well. It's a little bit more straightforward, nothing too crazy, nothing fancy. Where some locker rooms might have, better seating, cushier seats. The storage space is better. I remember the storage space at the Jets locker rooms were like amazing. The way even like some just have like a nameplate for locker rooms, like it just be like a nameplate. Like mine, and I should like upload it because I have a picture of it like right next to Darrelle Revis. That was pretty cool. But it's like really lit up. Crocker 41, and it's just something. I think some teams just put a little bit more money and effort into the aesthetics of what it looked like.
And the 49ers locker room gets an A. Wait, no, 49ers locker room got a B+. And I've seen the 49ers locker room. It looks pretty awesome. I mean, but compared to some others I've seen as well. By the way, Doggo Dude in the chat says not enough equipment for all the players is what it said. So,
yeah. Okay, that's tough. Oh, we do see. I see LKV in the chat, and he says, I saw the Oregon football facility on a walkthrough, and it was absolutely insane. College football, what they're doing, you can't compare it to NFL because it is insane. Like what these kids, it looks like a nightclub or something. I don't know. Like the college football locker rooms, not even the NFL, they don't invest as much. College, they have everything. I mean, you go into like where you do like your contrasting, right? Like your hot tub, cold tub type stuff. And there's like waterfalls, LED lights. Like college, I'm jealous because I went to this small Division II school. Like we didn't have any of that. And what these guys are doing now and how they're going about recruiting guys. Think about if you go to Alabama or LSU or Oregon in one of these schools, and then you get to the NFL and you're like, what the hell is this?
It's nuts.
They're the ones that's probably giving bad grades. The guys that went to these big D1 schools.
Yeah, and they're like, what? My locker room was nicer in college than this. And you walk in, there's like a big old lounge right at the beginning with TVs and gaming and all this kind of stuff happening. It's like, whoa, this is
49ers have that little, like, just that one little basketball court that everybody dunks on.
Mm-hmm. The 49ers, right, where they were like doing that thing where they were dunking on each other. Like someone would get interviewed and then someone would pull out the hoop behind them and then someone would dunk on. Was that Harbaugh era?
college in college they got life-size basketball courts in the locker room. Like the college scene right now, I mean, it's crazy, and they're investing a lot of money, as they should, in using it as a recruiting tool. NFL is like, well, you're here. Like, look, we spend all our money on you, right? We're spending, like Nick Bosa, we're about to pay you whatever they're going to pay him. I mean, it's going to be absurd. So it's like, we don't care about what the hell the locker room looks like. We got to pay this dude $160 million.
Yeah, because the college football programs are pulling in crazy money, and there's boosters adding money to that. As Thomas points out, Phil Knight of Nike giving millions of dollars to Oregon, and they don't have to pay their players on top of it. So, imagine, there's no $200 million salary cap for their players. So they're able to put that all back into recruiting and all that back into the program. And, now there's the NIL stuff.
That's what Deion was doing with, Jackson State. And a lot of people are upset. Like the way Jackson State looked, first of all, the way Colorado looks, oh my goodness. Like Colorado looks amazing. There's this video, Deion, he does a really good job of like hyping up Colorado, but he showed like Lil Wayne walking through, and Lil Wayne was like, wait, is this the locker room? What the heck? Like the Colorado has looked different, but Jackson State, in comparison to other HBCUs, which has been a big problem with how they are and how they're handled and whatnot, Jackson State's starting to get a lot of that, and the facilities are starting to look better. Where the other HBCUs, and we saw Ed Reed going around, he's like, man, there's trash everywhere, man, this crap. Oh, I mean, Ed Reed was upset. So all colleges are not created equal when it comes to these locker room experiences and facilities.
Oh, that's really funny. And I say, these college programs don't pay their players. They don't. We don't know about what they pay. Who's the player recently? Actually, wasn't there an NFL player like in the last few months that talked about crazy cash he was getting recently?
I feel like I did hear that, but we know it. I mean, the top players in the nation, they are getting taken care of. Now you have the NIL, but even prior to the NIL, like the whole thing with Cam Newton, right? Like Cam Newton was getting like. It was like $500,000. Like these dudes they were getting paid. They were always getting paid.
That's how you got the Scam Newton nickname, right?
Right. Well, he got the Scam Newton because he was at Florida stealing laptops.
Oh, jeez. And Jameis Winston rolling out with wings and didn't pay for him at the
crab legs.
Those crab legs. That's right.
But that's okay. When you play college football, there are people like, hey, yeah, just come through. I got you. Right. So you come through, you walk in, like they showed him walking in and walking out. Like he wasn't like in a rush. It was like, hey, I walk in, grab the crab legs. Somebody's looking out for me. Cool. I walk out. And then next thing you know, he's still in crab legs. Peter Warwick back in the day should have been Heisman Trophy Award winner. Yeah. And he got caught up with the whole Dillard's thing where he paid like $10 for like $1,000 worth of shirts. And that cost him his Heisman.
All right, we could go on all day about all the stuff that happens in college football. Croc, did you get any money under the table?
Hell no. I got help with some academics, junior college, and then I did have a good scholarship, especially for Division II. Nothing came out of my pocket to pay for college, and I had a nice refund. So they definitely took care of me.
There you go. That's good stuff. That's good stuff for young Crocky. Put him on the path to being co-host to one of the, if not the greatest podcast of all time, in my opinion. Let's actually, the Peter Warwick thing is interesting because I want to talk a little bit about what we're looking for here with some of these draft prospects at the NFL Combine, which is going on right now, and what doesn't translate sometimes. And I think Peter Warwick is a really good example of some of those things, and maybe some specific names from the Combine this year as well coming up next. Today's episode is brought to you by our very good friends at Built Bar. They take really good care of us, and their bars have taken really good care of me when I need a snack and I'm looking for one that doesn't have a lot of fat and a lot of calories. And if that's what you're looking for in a snack that tastes delicious, then you got to try Built Bar. What makes Built Bar so good? Well, for starters, they're all covered in 100% real chocolate, and I mean real chocolate that tastes delicious. And they come in unbelievable flavors like churro, peanut butter brownie, coconut almond, some of the newest flavors right now. And there's always limited flavors coming all the time at Built.com. There's cookie dough chunk puffs, grasshopper cookie, caramel apple, banana cream pie, lemon dipped cheesecake puffs, maple donut puffs that I know Croc is super interested in and might have already put in an order for those. Whenever there's new flavors too, Croc and I are probably both the same. We're like, I wonder if they're going to send us a little box of that. Or do I
waited. They didn't get it. Come on. I waited for it. They didn't get it, so I had to put it in an order.
There you go.
But I could not pass up on the opportunity. And listen, if you don't get Built Bars and you're interested in this new maple donut one, you have to get it now because they sell out quick. And that's what I was worried about. So I waited to see, would I get a box? I did not get it. So I went in and put in an order for 2 just in case.
And what's so great about Built Bars? Well, the macros are a huge part of this. Only 130 calories.
And I've been counting mine.
Bars. And I know Croc's been counting his. Only 4 grams of sugar. So Croc can still hit the Built Bars hard. And a whopping 17 grams of protein in Built Bars. So it's a protein bar that it has these crazy flavors. And I'm always blown away at how good they taste. You can find them at Built.com. You can also find them in your local store shelves as well, like Walmart and Sam's Club. 4-bar boxes in the pharmacy section at Walmart, or 13-bar boxes of hit flavors like brownie batter and churro at your local Sam's Club. And then you can go in there and get some of those and thank us later, or find all the flavors and varieties at Built.com. I love that you brought up Peter Warrick, Croc, because when you're trying to translate a player from college to the NFL, we've talked a lot about, quarterbacks in the past, and Trey Lance going from 1AA to the NFL, and maybe his team was, so much better than his opponents, and how that transition can be difficult for a player, and not only the speed of the game, but the guys on the other side you're not better than the guys automatically on the other side. And we've seen that a lot with Alabama prospects. It's one of the reasons why I'm like a little bit, it's like all this Bryce Young stuff. It's like, he's the best prospect. He's going to go. No, teams are going to spend 3 first-round picks to trade up to get Bryce Young.
Is everybody still like crazy high on Mac Jones, or did they say, okay, let's kind of settle down, or are they saying that it's because of the offensive coordinator was Matt Patricia?
I think people are pretty down on Mac Jones. The report recently was that they might think about trading Mac Jones because they think Bailey Zappe's pretty much the same guy. He's just as good. And so there's been some connections with potentially Mac Jones getting traded to the Las Vegas Raiders. But we've seen it now with Mac Jones. We've seen it now with Tua going from Alabama. When you're a powerhouse and you're better than most of the teams you play against, it's a little easier, right? You got time to throw. We've seen a lot of that with Ohio State quarterbacks too. You got great receivers. Your team's better than the other team. Their defense is good, so they bring it back to you and you get the ball again. You got time in the pocket. And so there's a lot of reasons that sometimes things don't translate. And quarterbacks, there's probably even more reason why it's hard.
Well, here's the thing when it comes to guys like Mac Jones, right? Because if you just evaluate him for like just him, Mac Jones, I remember even the year before when he had came in for an injured, I believe it was Tua, who had got hurt. Mac Jones did a lot of things at a very high level, and like just his ability to just understand where to go with the ball, his throwing, his timing, all of those things. I thought they were there. He was extremely tough. You watch him in that bowl game against Michigan, he is getting teed off on, but he's standing in there, he's making throws. I'm like, oh, Kyle's gonna like this guy. I remember saying that like then. Now, the other part of that though, that's hard to kind of quantify how important it is how much trust he has in the guys he's throwing to. So am I more apt to take, okay, this guy's about to hit me, but I'm going to throw it to this spot because I'm throwing it to Jalen Waddle or Devontae Smith or Jerry Jeudy or Henry Ruggs, and I know they're going to make the play, as opposed to a guy like, let's say, Will Levis, who doesn't have those type of receivers. So he might throw the same thing with the same timing while getting hit, but not have the same type of guy be where he's supposed to be and make a play, right? And that's the part too that is hard to kind of understand, like how does that translate to the NFL? And when you say it's kind of easier for a guy like Mac Jones, it's because of that as well. We're throwing to 4 guys that were first round picks and then another guy in John Mechie who's a second round pick. Wow, even coming off of a torn ACL.
And then now you got Bryce Young, and it's like, okay, Tua looks so easy for him in Alabama, and he had all this stuff, and Mac Jones looks so easy for him in Alabama, and it's like, well, yeah, and Bryce Young looks so easy for him. Look how smooth it is. He gets the ball out on time, and it's like, I think at some point you got to start looking and be like, well, yeah, it's easier for everybody who plays at Alabama. Got to be pretty obvious at this point, right? So
it was easier for Jalen Hurts, and he didn't even know how to throw the ball when he was at Alabama.
And then on top of that, and we're seeing these guys that don't have like maybe physical gifts that would carry them versus some other prospects. And we saw Tua go ahead of Justin Herbert. And then you realize, okay, well, the tools do matter sometimes. And then you see Bryce Young, who is where he's going to weigh in this weekend. We'll find out exactly. People are like, oh, he might get to 200 as if it's a great thing. He's going to get to 200 pounds. Like, dude, still that's way smaller than any quarterback in the modern era, especially to go number 1 overall. If he's 5'10 and a half and 199 pounds, it's kind of It's pretty wild. So,
and how he's built. He has a thinner frame than somebody like Kyler Murray, who was like 5'9.5" or barely 5'10", about 205 or whatever he was, 210. But he's kind of built with a little bit of a thicker lower body.
Yeah, and so you worry about longevity. Even if he is good, you hit on the player and he's good, but he's going to get folded in half on a regular basis in the NFL with how big these defensive linemen are that we're going to talk about in a second that we're seeing at the NFL Combine. But Peter Warrick is the guy that you brought up, and that's another big one for me because he was one of the most obvious, not at the time, but in hindsight, where you look back and it's like, oh, this guy is like the best player in the draft. And you were talking about how he should have won the Heisman. And then you watch how his play style is, and then you goes to the NFL and he runs, he's like a 4.5 guy. And it's like, well, now you're not faster than everybody anymore, Peter. And you can't run backwards when you return punts anymore in the NFL. Because in college, you just catch the punt, go this way, double back, go around, eventually find his way through and mosey on in and make some big play. And you just can't do that in the NFL. And so you have to think of play style, your physicality. Can you win dirty, not just win pretty? And what a lot of times you see on the college level is guys that are so much more talented than the guys across from them. They can win pretty, but you need to win dirty in the NFL. You need to be able to catch the ball in traffic as a receiver. You got to be able to run through arm tackles and as a running back and not dance and get downhill and get the easy yardage that are blocked for you. And as a return man, right, you've got to be able to hit a seam and hit a really small gap and just go for it, or just take your 4-yard punt return or whatever it is and not go backwards. So there's a lot of things like that come into play with projecting a prospect from college to the NFL. And so I think a lot of times when you see the guys that just look really good against air and they look really good in one-on-ones, and I think Jerry Jeudy was another one because he got me. I was like, he's the best receiver in the draft. He takes slants to the house. He's got some pretty good top speed.
Really good. I thought he played the fastest out of any receiver in that class.
Yeah, it's like, look at his feet. Look how he can get out of his breaks. But he's not good at the catch point. He's not good when there's bodies around him. And it's dogged him in the NFL. And that was on the scouting report. But you look so much at that looks so pretty and so easy. And you didn't really think about the other stuff and how that would translate.
Yeah, a lot of it is fit, too. And you talk about Peter Warrick. And if I'm not mistaken, when he got to Cincinnati, they had a receiver, Carl Pickens, I think, was the other guy. And Carl Pickens, George Pickens' father, was the receiver for Cincinnati Bengals. I want to say they kind of overlapped somewhat. But I think Peter Warrick would have fit good in a wide open offense like you have now as a slot receiver, right? Like he would have been dynamic as a slot. But if you were, back then with Corey Dillon running the ball, power, offense, and you need him to just consistently win on the outside, he was never going to be that guy. That's why Chad Johnson came in, and all of a sudden, like Chad Johnson with Peter Warrick, it was like, oh man, Chad Johnson, this guy, they got in the second round, is great. Fit is so big. That's the one of the, I think, I don't want to say overlooked, but there are some guys that can kind of fit in the more universal offense or defense. Those guys are more rare as opposed to the guys that you need to kind of fit in their fit. They have a specific skill set. So we talked about Tariq Woolen, who was a great find, a great steal, athletic freak, but he went to a defense with a coach that understood exactly how to utilize him. Hey, we're going to put him in position to be successful by playing this style of defense, and we can hone in on this. And that's what they did. And you could say he go to the 49ers, and I talked about it with like Patrick Mahomes, right? But, you go to the 49ers and they try to use you a different way. And it's like, well, that doesn't quite work. Now all of a sudden it's a bust, right? All these players are bust. So that's the tricky part too, especially when we're going to start evaluating these guys. I think 49ers met with Riley Moss, the cornerback out of Iowa, right? I think he fits more of what the 49ers like to do. Play that off coverage, play that zone, be able to read with your eyes. He has good feet, right? Those are some of the things I saw from him, especially even at the Senior Bowl week. You are going to need a guy that fits more of your scheme as opposed to just, we can make this guy fit. And more times than not, like, no, you can't.
LKV brought up Henry Ruggs, and that's a good example too of a player that's like, you got to be able to win dirty. And, John Ross running a 4.22, and Troy Williamson was like the number 7 pick in the draft. 15 years ago, never had much of a career. It took Ted Ginn a while, and his career was very different than it looked when he was at Ohio State and became more of a return man first. And then, so it's like just speed, just running away from guys. Like that's the thing that doesn't work in the NFL. You got to be able to win dirty. You got to have more than just speed, and you're not going to be running away from guys like you are. I think Reggie Bush people were going crazy about Reggie Bush. I was like, I don't know, dude. He's 190 pounds. You don't get
205.
You don't get to play Fresno State every week.
Oh, okay. You are being disrespectful to Reggie Bush right now, Peacock. I'm not going to let you do that. Peacock.
I think I was being exactly accurate about Reggie Bush.
No, you weren't. You just said you're not playing Fresno State every week. That's okay, because I get it.
Bush worth the number 1 pick in the NFL draft, or he ended up going number 2 in the NFL draft. Like
yes, he was worth the number 2 overall pick.
He wasn't like Barry Sanders. He was a good NFL running back, but he wasn't like a generational dude.
He was the best college football player I've ever seen.
The college, that's what I'm saying. I'm talking about the transition to the NFL. Like you don't do what he did in college in the NFL and just be like, guess what? I'm more athletic than you. See you later, everybody. You just don't do that in the NFL.
I think he was remember we talk about him, but he came in and broke the record for most receptions as a rookie in the NFL. He had 88 catches as a rookie.
I think he's been better now than he was then.
100%. I think he was a little bit. He was so dynamic in college. I get it, but I think just based on his skill set, like kind of like that size, kind of a tweener. Remember, they went with Deuce McAllister as like the lead back. I think if you would have inserted him into now, he would have been like Alvin Kamara on steroids.
Yeah, Alvin Kamara
or Christian McCaffrey on steroids, right? Like,
I see.
Gosh, that was very disrespectful of you, Peacock.
Look, I was just being real. If there's nothing else I do on this podcast, it's being real. Next, let's talk about some names. Some of these players in the NFL draft, defensive linemen that hit the field at the scouting combine Thursday. Next. Thanks again, everybody, for making Locked On 49ers your first listen every single day. Make sure you check out everything else the network has to offer. The brand new Locked On NFL Draft podcast. Damon Keith doing big things there. Love the new show. Sad that Croc's not on it anymore, but they're holding it down pretty well for us here at the Locked On Podcast Network on Locked On NFL Draft. And of course, the Peacock and Williamson NFL show, myself and former NFL scout Matt Williamson covering the entire league every single day. Make sure you're subscribed up to the brand new Peacock and Williamson YouTube channel. Croc, just right off the top of your head, you mentioned that corner,
Riley Moss.
Riley Moss. Who would you throw out there as a comp for him?
So it's hard. Jason Sehorn. I don't know. It's hard because typically, I don't know. I have to watch more on him. I'll say that.
I can't wait for the Croc scouting report on Riley Moss and all the DBs who are going to be hitting the field into next week. Actually, so next week we'll have a lot more combine because we'll have seen everybody over the weekend. And
I don't want to do this, right? Like and this, that's what comes to your head because you look like, okay, who is somebody that looked like him? Well, you're going to go to like another white guy, and that was Jason Sehorn back in the day. But no, I'm going to block out all the the skin color, and then all the stereotypes that they have for that type of player. You want your daughter to date him, first guy in, last guy out, hard worker, son of a coach, like all those things. So I'm gonna block all that out and just watch the film and see who he reminds me of.
He was at the podium and he kept getting questions like, "So, what position are teams talking about you playing?" He's like, "Cornerback." He's like, everyone's assuming, "Oh, you're gonna play safety in the NFL, right?" He's like, "No, I'm cornerback." Then teams are telling me they're looking at me as a cornerback, and 49ers are one of those teams. So,
yeah,
I got a name for you amongst defensive linemen, Croc. This dude's a freak of nature, and he was a guy that I think would have been in the area and was on my list of players to watch, and I hadn't watched him yet. And he showed up at the combine amongst defensive linemen and kind of went a little bit crazy. His name is Adebawore. That is his last name. His first name is even more difficult to pronounce. Adetomiwa Adebawore is his name. He's an edge / interior guy from Northwestern. He's only 6'2", but he's 280 pounds. And he's got long arms, almost 34-inch long arms, big 10.5-inch hands. Sort of that prototype of what the 49ers like with a bigger end. They've liked taller ends, but he's got length, even though he's not the tallest guy with his long arms, which is good. So he could play on the edge, play in, kind of move inside type of guy. He's a really interesting player. And I think Matt Barrows, identifying him as one of the players for the 49ers as well. Someone to look out for maybe that could be there in the third round range or within trade up range for the 49ers to go get in the draft. And you know, his name starts with an A, so he was the first guy out there amongst the defensive linemen to run at the combine. Croc, this guy sprung out of his stance, had a really good 10-yard split, and then ran a 4.5. And I was like, "What the
wow.
heck?"
Wait, a 4.5 at 6'2", 280?
And then he ran his second run 4.49. Adebawore, 6'2", 282. He's got 33 7/8 inch arms, 10.5-inch hands, and his unofficial time, I haven't checked NFL.com. Let me double check if they have an official time yet. I think the official results are in. It's 4.49 for him. 4.49 40-yard dash, 1.61 split, 37.5-inch vertical.
1.61.
And
what was his vert?
37.5.
That's explosive. That's a big guy getting off the ground.
But I'm like, well, he's not going to get to pick 99 now, you know? So it's like,
maybe
you almost kind of cross him off the list. He might still get there. But apparently, you know, the production is there and the tape is there for this guy too. Although, let's see. His grade prior to the combine from Lance Zierlein at NFL.com was more of a backup. Good backup with potential to be a starter. So that's a mid-round guy. You know, that's round 3, round 4 type of a player. So we'll see if he ends up going too high for the 49ers to have an opportunity. But even before he ran, Croc, I thought he might have had that old school like neck roll underneath his t-shirt. Like you could
now just his traps.
Muscles, traps, shoulders. He's 6'2", 280. So he looks like a ripped running back, except for just bigger.
Yeah, he's not missing shoulder day. I'll say this. When guys are when they have kind of that build, right? It's essentially kind of this tweener because it's like, well, he's big, but he's kind of probably like built more like an edge rusher, but then he's not like heavy enough for like interior, you know, just you kind of look at all these things like, well, what do you do with them? And the person that comes to mind a lot of times is Aaron Donald. And a lot of times the difference between Aaron Donald and a lot of other guys that get kind of lumped into that type of guy that's 6'1", 285 pounds or 6'2", 285 or whatever, they don't have the speed of Aaron Donald, right? Like they don't have, like when you watch Aaron Donald and he tested well. This guy, I don't even want to butcher his name, but not only does he have like the, you know, 6'2", 288, long arms, big hands, then he goes out there and runs into 4.4s. That's incredible.
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. And he has even though he's not tall, he has enough length, I think, with the arm length and being 6'2", I think that's plenty to be someone you could play on the edge. But, you know, with the size and, you know, some explosive ability to be an interior rusher, especially with the way the 49ers like to use some pretty small guys sometimes and rotate them through in pass rush situations on the interior. So interesting name. And I think he still could be in the third round conversation, but might have climbed a little bit too high if teams really weigh what they saw at the combine, or at least makes them go back and watch the film a little harder. And I don't know how teams felt about him, but interesting name there. You mentioned Aaron Donald, though. I mean, it's almost unfair that Kalijah Cansey went to the University of Pitt. He's been compared to Aaron Donald his whole career. Super productive guy. Comes to the combine. He's built the same, undersized defensive tackle. He's 6'1". He's 281 pounds. He only has 30 and 5/8 inch arm length. So I think there's only been
30.
He's got under 31 inch arms, right? So that's why he's an interior guy. But I think I want to say it was. I had the stat earlier and I forgot what it was. I think only 8, and now he's the 9th player to be at the combine to be a defensive lineman that has shorter than 31 inch arms. So 6'1", 281. But he ran a 4.67. He ran faster than Aaron Donald, actually. So he's right there in the Aaron Donald zone of all of his measurables. 6'1", 281, productive, went to the same college. So on one hand, it's unfair because he's going to be compared to Aaron Donald, and he's not Aaron Donald, but people are looking at him because he was so productive, such a good player, as maybe even a late round 1 guy. He worked out well, so we'll see if that helps push him into the late round 1 area. Probably not a guy that's going to get to the third round for the 49ers, but at the same time, Aaron Donald played so well, I think it opened the door for some other unique body types, and people give more guys a chance now I think it's happened in a lot of positions, quarterback, interior defensive lineman. I think a lot of positions, even we're seeing like guys that are 155 pounds get drafted at wide receiver. That used to be, you're not on the draft board anymore if you're that small. So some more unique body types hitting the NFL than ever before, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, and just explosive, right? Like guys are going to take the athlete and say what they could do with it. Now here's the thing you can't do. You can't overdraft that guy. You still have to go off of film, right? Aaron Donald destroyed everybody at the Senior Bowl. Like he destroyed everybody. So he was kind of all over the place on boards. I remember looking at his draft, and I just kind of recently looked at it to kind of refresh my memory. And I wasn't big into the draft in 2014. I was still playing football at this time, and I think that's when he was drafted. But you look at his scouting report, and I mean, I think it was Zerline that said he was like a second or third round pick, or third or fourth round pick, something crazy like that.
Somebody had him at like a third round guy, and I think the conversation coming, before the Senior Bowl especially, was like, oh, this guy's awesome, he's amazing, he wrecks people, but he's too small, so maybe he's a day 2 pick, something like that.
So it was more of that than his film. It wasn't his film that made him a day 2 pick. It was
just size. Yeah,
it was size. Okay. Because you look at these guys and you wonder what will make them climb up. So if they didn't look at their film and say, hey, this is a day 1 guy based off of film, I don't think you change that evaluation based on them going and wrecking shop at the combine. I just think maybe when the day 2 opens up and you start, especially you get kind of that third round range, depending on where you had him, he's going to make maybe a guy that you trade up for in the third round, as opposed to, hey, we'll just see if he gets here, right? Like if one of these guys, they're freakish athletes, as you just said, if they get drafted, if they were projected to go even early day 3, 4th round, right? But then you're like, let's trade up to the middle of the 3rd, give up a couple to get a guy that, because of how he tested. Like I think that can happen, but I don't know if you weren't as high on his film before the combine, and you thought he was more of that kind of day 2, early day 3 guy, I don't think you change that part of it. Somebody will, and they're going to try to force him into something that he's not, and then in a couple years he'll be on a new team.
You'd be like, oh yeah, he's actually not Aaron Donald.
Right.
Dang it. How about this dude, Nolan Smith, Georgia edge player? And he's really light. He's more of a off-ball linebacker / edge player, maybe 3-4. He's probably not a fit for the 49ers, but this guy went crazy. 6'2", 238 pounds. He was working out with the defensive end, the edge group. But he ran a 4.38 40 at 6'2", 238. He had 3 sacks last year in 8 games. He had a torn something that ended his season, torn pec muscle that ended his season, but a 1.52 split, which is like a wide receiver speed. I mean, he was wide receiver 40 time too, but yeah, 1.52 split for the 10 yards, and then 4.39 40-yard dash, 41.5-inch vertical. I mean, just tested ridiculously. His tape's not there. He's not a great edge rusher, but a player that could be in that 3rd round range. I just don't think stylistically it's what the 49ers are necessarily looking for their edge guys. Sounds
like more of a 3-4 outside backer.
Yeah, or he just feels really tweenerish, and he doesn't have the production of someone like Hassan Reddick, who had similar size, where teams, and they still played him at the wrong position when the Cardinals drafted him, but they realized how good he was, drafted him in the 1st round, but he should have been an edge guy, even though he was undersized, and they played him at off-ball linebacker, and it wasn't the best spot for him. But then there's been guys like, who's the LSU linebacker that went in the 1st round of the Jaguars a couple
Chason.
Yeah, Kayvon Chason. Yeah, that's kind of what it reminds me of. I was like, he's not a great pass rusher, but super athletic, and he's kind of a tweener, and he's not really good at both. And so that's kind of the vibe I get from Nolan Smith, but crazy workout numbers.
Yeah. Now, again, knowing how to use a guy, right? In Arizona, I don't know how they botched it with Hassan Reddick when you see what he did this past year. Maybe he just got better, or maybe Philadelphia just had a better plan for him. And that goes back to what I said a segment ago. It's all about fit and understanding exactly how we're going to utilize this guy, right? And understanding like what he does well, and hopefully he does multiple things well. When I look at the 49ers and we're talking about fit, right? You look at Danny Gray, and I think Kyle's trying to figure out, hey, I drafted this guy. He doesn't know where he fits with the team, and or with his offense and how Kyle wants to run his offense. He doesn't know how Danny Gray fit. But Danny Gray could possibly go to another team that's just like, hey, we'll do this, and you'll have more than one catch in the season. Like so when you look at this guy out of Georgia, somebody's gonna say, you know what? He does this very well. So we're going to utilize him like this way in this situations. And you would think that all coaches would understand that, but that's really not the case. There's a lot of pride into all this. And then they try to force somebody, I could get him to do this. And it's like, man, that's not what he does well.
KJ Henry is a name that's popped up for the 49ers in mock drafts in that late third round area. Clemson edge guy, big athletic player for Clemson. He ran 4.63. I'm trying to pull up what his height and weight was here. This website's taking forever. I think NFL.com's getting crushed right now. So yeah, 6'4", 251, 33-inch arms, 10-inch hands. KJ Henry ran a 4.63, which is a pretty dang good time for a guy that's 250 pounds. So there's another name to look out for if you're looking for an edge guy in that late third round area for the 49ers. And not super productive, but so more of a raw, athletic, long type of a, if he was super productive with those workout numbers and that height, weight, speed, we'd probably be talking about a late first rounder instead of a late third rounder. So, when you're drafting a defensive lineman, offensive lineman in the third round, you're probably finding a guy's either built funny, maybe small school guy, those types of things for the reason that they fall into that point in the draft because everybody's looking for D lineman and offensive lineman.
All right.
I'm going to get a couple more quick names here for you, Croc, and feel free in the chat to throw out some names of guys you liked that were at the combine. Siaka Ika is a bit of fan favorite. He ran a 5.39 40-yard dash, which is not fast. That's because he's a nose tackle. He goes upwards of 350 pounds. I'm trying to pull up what his
yeah.
I'm talking about big man nose tackle, and this dude could do everything. Line up as a fullback, lined up on the offensive line. I think at times at Baylor, he did a little bit of everything. So his official weigh-in was 6'3", 335 pounds. Siaka Ika from Salt Lake City, Utah is his hometown, but went to the University.
That's a Oos? Is that a Samoan?
Yeah.
Or a Tongan? Oh, yeah. Those guys are heavy-handed, too.
Yeah. Big, strong dudes. 1.88 10-yard split. He's not fast. He is not super quick, but he will eat up blocks for sure.
Well, what did I say I wanted?
You wanted 350.
I want a guy that can't play more than 3 straight snaps, right? Like I want that guy that give me 2 plays and get out of there. Give me 1 play, right? First down, they try to run. I mean, he's just clogging stuff up. And I know the 49ers, they like more of those penetrating defensive linemen, but man, give me that guy that's just going to not get shoved 5 yards out the way on the double team. Right? Can he be stout? Can he anchor down and not move and kind of clock? And the 49ers just don't have that guy.
There's a nose tackle out of Michigan that I really like, Mozzie Smith. And he's just not going to be there for the 49ers. Unfortunately, he's not going to get down to the late third round area, I don't think. But let's see who had the most bench press reps. How many reps? Oh, they don't have any. What the heck? They don't have any bench press reps up right now.
It's interesting.
How many would Crocker put up? 225. How many reps?
Right now or when I was coming out? Because I did. I got my bench press reps coming out.
Oh, did you? How many?
Oh, 17.
What the hell? What? For a corner?
Yeah.
That's big time.
Well, what happened was my coach told me, and actually that was not even coming out. That was spring of junior year, like kind of heading into senior year.
Okay.
Yeah, I hit 17.
That's rare for even any of these combine corners. Most of them don't even try to do the bench.
Well, what happened was our coach and Coach Speaks, his brother actually played linebacker for the Chiefs, but Coach Speaks had said, and I don't know if he was right or wrong or tricking me or whatever, but he said anybody's bench press can get stronger. They just have to really work at it. So I just really focused in on okay, I'm going to get stronger in this bench press. And sure enough, I was just getting stronger and stronger and stronger. Like now, I mean, I can get under it. I can for sure hit it 10 times. Maybe if people are watching, I can get to 12.
You get that one
dude. A little adrenaline.
You get that one dude. I forget his name. He was the Cardinals' strength guy for a long time, but he's always the guy at the combine who's yelling at the guys doing the bench and slapping him in the chest.
Oh yeah,
he get an extra couple reps out of you.
Yeah, well, I say that, but I've been slimming down, and the more I've been slimming down right now, I've kind of like I lost some muscle mass. So
Yeah.
I know I can do 225. I was just playing around with it the other day, but I don't know if I could hit it as much as I could have like a month and a half ago.
Croc just plays around with 225. Like nothing.
Well, I feel like as a grown man, you should be able to hit 225.
I don't know. I've never maxed bench in my life. And when I do reps, it's nowhere near 225. In fact, I'm gonna hit the gym tonight, and it's gonna be more like 150 is what I'm hitting. I've never even, so I wouldn't even rack up that much, to be honest with you. Plus these long arms, I don't know.
We need a Locked On Network combine.
Yeah, we do. I would skip the bench press portion of that, I'm sure. I would skip the 3-cone too.
Yeah, I can help you. Gosh, coach, he's a head coach right now. He's been the head coach. GJ Kinney taught me how to do my 3-cone. So we were working out at Incarnate Word, which is he the head coach at Incarnate Word now? Or he just left Incarnate Word. But back in the day, we were training there in San Antonio. We were both on the San Antonio Talons. And he taught me my 3-cone. And then the next day, I went, had my workout for the Jets. He went, had his workout for the Giants. He signed with the Giants. I signed with the Jets. But he taught me my 3-cone. So I could teach you. Okay. I know the steps and everything.
I would need that. And I'm way past my prime for any of those events, unfortunately. But that would be fun. We got to get a Locked On event together for sure.
Yeah, I'm in.
Croc's going to crush the 225. 17 reps. That's impressive.
Yeah. I was pretty strong.
And because you said you got your 40 down to 4.5s, right?
4.53. Yeah.
4.53. Yeah. But you started out like 4.7, huh?
So it wasn't so much that I started out at a 4.7. I did not know how to run the 40-yard dash.
Okay.
I didn't train on the 40.
Yeah.
So I was never going to be a guy that naturally could just wake up and run fast. Like I could run, but I just wasn't fast. So if you haven't trained on the 40, these guys spend 8 weeks training for like this day, right? I didn't do any of that. I was working in the back of Macy's. And all of a sudden, all these NFL teams could start calling. It's like, oh, I got to go run a 40-yard dash. Okay.
You said you like went one day and trained for like 4 hours, right?
First I went and ran a 4.71 for the Saints. And they're like, man, you killed the ball drills, but you didn't run a fast 40. So we'll invite you to rookie minicamp. I'm like, all right, I'll take it. Cool. Well, I landed, Philadelphia Eagles called, and they were like, hey, we want to bring them in a week. So my my agent said, go to California, work on your 40, and then fly out to Philly. So I just worked on it for 3 days, 1 hour each day, and I got it to a 4.57 for the Eagles. And then 2 weeks later, I worked out for the Jets, and I was more prepared and ran a 4.53. And it's all about just where you put your hand for me, right? Just because, again, I'm not naturally a blazer. So where I put my hand, like really kind of getting out those first few steps and then kind of that drive phase and then being able to have the core strength to kind of hold that knee drive throughout it, and that was very important for me. So I think if I would have trained and like lifted to get stronger for it, I could have potentially ran 4.49, maybe 4.5 flat,
It's pretty amazing too. I mean, that's blazing fast, and there's a lot of technique in it. I'd probably fall over if I tried to get down in one of those sprinter stance right now.
Yeah, like some guys don't need technique though. See, I wish I was like that. There's some guys they're just they just wake up and they're just faster than everybody else, and I clearly wasn't one of those guys.
Rick says the Draft Network boys did a combine a couple years back. It was hilarious, dude. And you don't realize how freakish these guys are and how much they're training for it too, year round. And plus, they're all in their physical prime. In your early 20s is where you're gonna, do the best at any of this stuff. As far as testing goes, strength you could probably build a lot more. But as far as speed, not many guys get a lot faster than they are when they're 21, 22 years old or jump higher. But just pedestrians like breaking a 5 flat. I mean, that's most people. Even like guys that like you go to the Y and go find dudes playing pickup hoops or whatever, and find a handful of dudes that look athletic, and you might be lucky if you find one that can break a 5 flat.
Right. I would hope if we did this, and we got to hit Ross up for this. We'll make Ross set this up. I would put a lot of pressure on myself to break 5. So
yeah, exactly.
if at 25 years old I had to train to be faster than the 4.71,
Right. Yeah.
you know, at 35, I don't know.
Bobo says I can only run fast if the cops chase me.
Yeah, that too.
All right. Thanks everybody for jumping in on the live episode. Always fun to finish the week this way. Appreciate everybody listening to us on Friday as well on the audio apps or whenever and wherever you're listening to us. Make sure you hit subscribe, tell a friend, hit the bell and the thumbs up and all those things. And make sure you're subscribed up to the new Locked On NFL Draft podcast. And of course, the Peacock and Williamson NFL show. And Croc and I will be back with you next week with a whole bunch of fresh workouts from the NFL Combine and maybe some new stories as well to talk about right here on Locked On 49ers.